We are live. We are live here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you need a little bit of extra content to get you through the day, get you through the night here during a winter storm, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button. Share the video with your family, your friends, your significant other, your psychiatrist, your priest, your cat and your dog. Welcome into College Football's Peek Around the Corner in the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirkgowdy Avenue. It's been a mad scramble. Before we came on, we were 1 minute late. 1 minute late. Holy smokes. Thanks for y'all coming in. We got a stacked show tonight. Ray Anderson speaks. Ray Anderson speaks. We're going to be going through the article. This is important. Remember, we've been waiting for Ray Anderson to speak. Right? That's the one Arizona State money perch. You remember what he said in that letter? Do you remember when on January 31st, we at Peek Around the Corner, one day after the Pac-12 meetings, we were the ones that said Arizona State spoke up and was displeased with the process? Do you remember that? I got raked over the coals by an Arizona State 247 writer over that. Well, anyways, we're going to get to that article. I got to find that article. I just posted it on my Twitter. First, let's get to our sponsor. We got a stacked show tonight. We're going to go through Ray Anderson's, that article, what he said in public today. We've been waiting for it. We've been waiting for it here at Peek Around the Corner. Then we're going to go through some lines came out from FanDuel for the the big game, supposedly through the 2023 season. Some early lines came out. We're going to be going right through those real quick. And then Tom Fornelli, CBS Sports, takes his shot at who should be the permanent rivals for the Big Ten schools, who should be each of their 3 permanent rivals. I got to tell you, I love Tom Fornelli. I think he's a great guy, great character, knows his, very entertaining, knows his stuff. I hope he's wrong. I hope he's wrong about some of those selections. Okay, but let's first get to our sponsor. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. Clean, hot air roasted coffee produces a smoother, richer, healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. From craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans, the smoothest coffee me and the little general has ever had. So give it a try. There's a link in the description box below the video. If you do give it a try, if you do order some bags of this beautiful coffee, if you want to support the channel, put PATC in the comments section below. Thank you so very much. And thank you for Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters for being a sponsor on this most important live show. Susan Murray, right there. Right there. I got my bag of Blue Ridge coffee. It's the best. Delicious. Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Okay, we're doing a little bit of a mad scramble here, so give me a second. A lot of things going on. Lots and lots of things going on. Okay. Like I say, it's been a mad scramble getting ready for this important live show. Let's get right to it. Let me do a little bit of. There's a lot of new people on watching our show. Thank you so very much for joining us. For all of you original members of Peek Around the Corner, this is going to be old news, but I just want to back up here. Pac-12 meetings, they had their meetings. The next day, we got a nugget of information from the Arizona State Money Perch, who we consider a booster who'd been giving us incredible information throughout the years when it came to Arizona State hockey, the formation, the new arena, the scholarships, whatever. It's just every little bit of information he's given us, it's been nails. So he told us on January 31st, and we came on live with it, and we said Arizona State voiced their displeasure of what was going on. That was the one school that we know of. There might have been others, but was the one school that raised their voice. Somebody at Arizona State in that Pac-12 meeting was not happy. Then about 3 or 4 days later, other reports were picking up on that. Well, we've been talking here at Peek Around the Corner. Do you know who we haven't heard in public yet? During all of this is Arizona State. Well, today we hear from Arizona Anderson, Ray Anderson, the longtime athletic director, hopes the Pac-12 media rights future clarifies soon. The word is soon. There is so much to peel back the onion on this article. So just hang tight, buckle up. This is going to take a while. For those new to the show, what we do a monologue. I go through some items, and then we open it up to comments. We open it up to phone calls. The number is 763-260-1333. That's 763-260-1333. The phone lines are not open yet. I will let you know when the lines are open. I know we're going to be getting calls tonight like we do every night. Okay, here we go. by Kevin Zimmerman. The Pac-12's uncertain future lingers. USC and UCLA are on their way out of the conference next summer, and the league is fighting for scraps left over after other major conferences have secured their media rights contracts. Expansion is on the table, but that is another step in keeping the Pac-12 afloat. Arizona State's vice president, let me make this a little bit bigger here. There we go. Arizona State's vice president for University Athletics, the athletic director, Ray Anderson, is among those not hiding frustrations as the timeline media rights negotiations has extended over a course of 8 months. You get it now? He's not hiding those frustrations? Well, guess what? Arizona State did not hide their frustrations in that Pac-12 media, in the Pac-12 meetings, and we reported it here at Peek Around the Corner. We're managing it by being patient and letting the process with our new commissioner take its course. It's been challenging and it's been frustrating. I don't think anybody could deny that. Anderson told Bickley and Murata when he joined Arizona Sports on Thursday. And so we've had to be patient because, very frankly, we're not in control. I'm going to read that again. There is so much. Please be patient with us here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, at Peek Around the Corner, because as you all know, we do deep dives into this. We're going to peel back the onion on this. And so we've had to be patient because, very frankly, we're not in control. Who's not in control? Arizona State's not in control. The athletic directors are not in control. Or is it the entire Pac-12 not in control? In the comments section, I want you to put down what you think he means by that. We certainly believe in the value of this market, and certainly the value of Arizona State as an institution brings to the Pac-12 conference. Anderson, though, believes a resolution is on the horizon. Now that's good. That's hope. That's hope. Anderson, though, believes a resolution is on the horizon, with the Pac-12's current contract with ESPN and Fox ending after next season. He is confident the Pac-12 and Commissioner George Kliavkoff will reach a deal that keeps things relatively intact. Interesting words, relatively intact. The Arizona State leader said that he could see a media rights deal close in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So it's not going to happen here in the next. It's not going to happen this weekend. It's not going to happen next week. In the next 2 or 3 weeks. But assurances is a very strong word. Guarantees, assurances. Can you promise? I can't. I can't speculate, Anderson said. Assurances is a very strong word. Guarantees, assurances, can you promise? I can't. I can't speculate. Anderson expressed his frustrations after Washington State's president, Kirk Schultz, told the Mercury News' John Wilner he was hoping for a mid-March deal to settle in ink. It was noted that the conference put out a statement on February 13th offering unity, something Schultz said wasn't just a panic PR campaign. He said it was a true show that the 10 remaining schools are sticking together. In the latest rumors about potential negotiations, the New York Post's Andrew Machard reported Tuesday that Apple has emerged as a potential media partner for the Pac-12. With ESPN, Amazon Prime Video, and Fox Sports lukewarm on the league, Apple could end up being the platform for the Pac-12 according to sources. Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff could present Apple as a possibility to his schools soon, according to sources. Whether the universities would be interested in a potential all-streaming deal and whether the terms could end up being good enough to prevent schools from departing to other conferences has yet to be determined. The Big 12 most recently agreed to a media rights deal with ESPN and Fox. The SEC and the Big Ten are on fresh deals, and the ACC remains in one, a long-term one. The Los Angeles area schools' departures ding the Pac-12 hopes as it is set to lose a major media market. Beyond the television deals securing money for the conference schools, it could slingshot the Pac-12 into determining expansion targets and moving forward as the football and men's basketball products, the moneymakers, have fallen behind on the field and court. At the least, it could quell the noise and speculation about other conferences attempting to entice other Pac-12s to lead the league. Certainly, we're anxious to have something resolved here in the next couple or 3 weeks so we can take the next steps and get some of the speculation out of the air in regard to what other conferences may be thinking in terms of trying to pick off Pac-10 teams, if you will, and what we may do in terms of adding institutions. Anderson told Bickley and Marotta, getting a media rights deal will clear the air for figuring out some of that other stuff. So Anderson comes right out and says it. We are anxious. We need to get something resolved here in the next couple, 2 to 3 weeks. Once again, he says 2 to 3 weeks. Middle of March, no later. So then we can take the next steps and get some of the speculation out of the air in regard to what other conferences, plural, may be thinking in terms of trying to pick off 10 teams. Next paragraph, added Anderson, we've just been forced, like everyone else, unfortunately, to let this play out because we're not directly in the driver's seat. Again, what does he mean by that? Does he mean we are not directly in the driver's seat? Is he pertaining that to athletic directors, Arizona State in particular, or the entire conference? Let me know in your comments and your phone calls, what does Anderson, because that's the second time he's brought that up. We're not in control. We're not in the driver's seat. If you remember, if you've been with us here at Peek Around the Corner, the Arizona State Money Perch said that Arizona State would not move without Arizona. And Arizona would look at Oregon and Washington before they would move. So is that what he's talking about? We're not in control. It's not like we don't have options. It's not like we have options right now. We're not in the driver's seat. Is Anderson talking about Arizona State? Or is he talking about like the group of athletic directors? We're not in control. We're not in the driver's seat. Or is he talking about the Pac-12 as a whole because of the way the media market is right now, tightening up? Back to the article. That being said, we have confidence our commissioners and our presidents and chancellors are going to get to a place where a media rights deal and a grant of rights is done. It may not be the projections originally contemplated, but will be a solid enough financial situation to keep this conference together, and then we will really work hard to move forward positively. It may not be the projections originally contemplated, but it will be solid enough financial situation. What about the visibility? What about the exposure part of it? Doesn't say that. Solid enough financial situation to keep this conference together. Wow. I am very interested to hear what you all have to say about this article, about Ray Anderson's, what he discussed here. Again, first reported, Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Arizona State, Ray Anderson tells Arizona Sports new Pac-12 deal may not be the projections originally contemplated. Not even close, really. But will be solid enough financial situation to keep this conference together. Interesting. Okay, I know you guys got a lot of comments on this. I know we're going to get a ton of phone calls, and I'm very excited what you all think about this. He offers some ray of hope, right? It's almost like this was the rah-rah that we were waiting for out of Arizona State. So I think overall, there's some hope here. There's some hope that the Pac-12 can hold together. He expects a deal in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But there is a timeline on this now. There is definitely a timeline. He's frustrated. We knew that. We reported that on January 31st. And again, we do have another letter from our Arizona State money perch. We're not even going to go there tonight because there's so much other stuff going on. We will go there maybe tomorrow night. We shall see. Okay. We're going to quickly go. We'll get to the Ray Anderson story real quick here. We're going to quickly go to Tom Fornelli discussing at CBS Sports what he believes the 3 permanent rivals should be for each Big Ten schools when they finally get this done. Now, we did get a little bit of nugget of information. But again, we'll probably do a live show tomorrow night. We'll do the Arizona State letter. We'll do that nugget of information for Friday night because this Ray Anderson thing popped up. So we already got a stacked show, and I want to get to your comments and phone calls as fast as possible. But this is Fornelli. While there's no perfect solution, I set out with a few key things in mind: history, geography, and television. We can't ignore the elephant in the room. The 3 networks, including CBS, will be broadcasting Big Ten games, and they're paying a lot of money to do so. They have a say in the matchups they want to see every year. So these are his permanent rival matchups in the Big Ten. Going forward in the 16-team conference, probably a 9-game conference schedule. Illinois would have Northwestern, Purdue, and UCLA. Indiana would have for their 3 permanent rivals, Michigan, Northwestern, Purdue. This is what Tom Fornelli believes, his projections, what should happen in the Big Ten scheduling. Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Maryland, Minnesota, Penn State, Rutgers. Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State, Ohio State. Michigan State, Michigan, Rutgers, and USC. Michigan State and USC is a permanent rival game. Minnesota, Iowa, Maryland, Wisconsin. Well, I'm not very pleased with that. Nothing against Maryland, but my goodness. Nebraska, okay, if you're going to give Nebraska UCLA, right there, bam, right? Then our next rival would be Michigan. But they've got Michigan with Indiana. I would love to see Minnesota right there. I don't understand that Maryland. However, let's continue. Northwestern, Illinois, Indiana, USC. Ohio State's Michigan, Penn State, Purdue. So they do not have, Tom Fornelli in his projections does not have a Ohio State USC setup. Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, Rutgers. Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio State. Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan State, and Penn State. UCLA, Illinois, Nebraska, USC. And then we'll go on and read the reasons why Tom Fornelli thinks that would be, well, what should happen. USC, Michigan State, Northwestern, UCLA. Michigan State and Northwestern. Yeah, I don't think that's what's going to happen. Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska. Finding rivals for USC, UCLA. This was the most challenging part, but I came upon rivals for each following a simplistic plan. I didn't want to overload either with more travel than they already face. So for the two other rivals, I wanted to lean on teams that were more in the western half of the league. Hence, UCLA gets Nebraska and Illinois, while USC gets Northwestern and Michigan State. I know Michigan State doesn't count as West, but another factor was in play. The Big Ten is a conference deep in rivalry trophies. So there's no better way to establish a Big Ten feel to USC and UCLA than give them a trophy game. So Michigan State is the obvious answer. The idea came to me in the day the move was announced. If Michigan State and USC aren't made permanent rivals with a Trojan Horse trophy, then what the hell is even the point of all this? So he's going with the Trojans there. The Spartan, Michigan State, USC. For UCLA, Nebraska is the closest campus, and it's the Big Ten team UCLA has played the most, 13 games. The second most, Illinois. So they're two Western opponents with the history of facing the Bruins. And then for USC's three rivals, some will argue that they're too easy. I get that. I had other models that include Ohio State, which a lot of people have. USC having Ohio State as a rival. Or Michigan and Penn State, but giving them one of those three would have make things too difficult. I assume USC plans to continue playing Notre Dame every season, knowing that if I'm the Big Ten, I ensure that USC's schedule rotates Ohio State and Michigan. Make sure the Trojans play one of them every season, but not both. And I think that's really good reasoning right there. The USC Notre Dame game would likely be on NBC every single year, while the game against Ohio State or Michigan would be on Fox or CBS. Of course, Penn State will be then paired with either Ohio State and Michigan in alternating years, making for a difficult schedule. So I kept that in mind when creating USC's permanent rival. Some really good analysts there. Everyone's taking the shot at the potential permanent rivals for each Big Ten team going forward in 2024. Let's quickly get to the lines. The lines that have come out for the big games during the season from FanDuel. September 2nd, week 1, Colorado, TCU. TCU minus 17.5. The Colorado Buffaloes, Deion Sanders, TCU coming off going to the championship game, losing to Georgia, but what an epic season by the Horned Frogs, minus 17.5. There it is. There's the early line. The Horned Frogs, Nebraska versus Colorado. This is week 2 at Colorado. Matt Rule versus Deion Sanders. Matt Rule, Nebraska has to play my beloved Gophers in the first week of the season. So both these teams should be going 0-1 going in this game, right? Right? Okay. Nebraska's favored by 6.5. Texas, Alabama, September 9th. They go at it again. Last year, Alabama won by 1 point, 20-19. The early line has it Bama, minus 8.5. Texas A&M, Miami, Florida, my goodness. Both of these programs hit the iceberg last year. Someone's got to win this game. Right here, it's Texas A&M minus, favored by 4.5 at Miami, Florida. That line surprises me quite a bit. I'm looking at Miami, Florida. In fact, I'm looking at taking the points in a lot of these games. Remember, Greg the Cooler is going to be Greg the Heater in 2023. Iowa State. Iowa State clipped Iowa last year. At Iowa State, at Ames, Iowa's favored by 3 points. I think I'd take the Cyclones. Tennessee, Florida. Tennessee's favored by only 6.5 at Florida. I think Tennessee's going to take a step back, but I think Florida, I think they're in trouble. Graham Mertz is going to be the starting quarterback in this game, September 16th against Tennessee. Yeah, I'm taking the Volunteers in that game. Washington, Michigan State. Washington favored by 10.5 on the road. On the road, the Huskies are favored by 10.5, getting lots of love from Vegas, from FanDuel. I'm giving them lots of love as well this year. Ooh, the backyard brawl. Pittsburgh Panthers, West Virginia, September 16th. Last year, the Panthers outlast West Virginia when that ball went through the receiver's hand. Pittsburgh did a pick six. Can West Virginia win this game -1 against the Panthers? It's almost a pick 'em. Garrett Green going to be the quarterback for the Mountaineers? Or is that going to be Nico Marchio? Florida State versus Clemson. You guys know how much I love the Seminoles in 2023. September 23rd. Right now the line is Florida State +3. I would hop on the Seminoles right now. Ohio State Buckeyes -8.5 at Notre Dame. South Bend, Indiana. Sam Hartman, quarterback, Notre Dame. USC -3 at Notre Dame, October 14th. Penn State +8 at Ohio State. And again, I love my Nittany Lions this year. I'm looking at that +8. That looks pretty juicy to me. Kansas State, Kansas. Kansas State, the Big 12 champions, the reigning, defending Big 12 champions as they defeated TCU in the Big 12 championship game against the upstart Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas State's only favored by 3.5. That's the job that Leopold's doing there in Kansas, Lawrence. And then, of course, the game, Buckeyes, Michigan. Ohio State +1. Michigan favored by 1 right now as of today, February 23rd. The game is November 25th. So those are the lines. We're going to be keeping tabs on them. No, I haven't made any of my official predictions yet. And yes, Greg the Cooler of 2022, it's going to be a reversal. It's going to be Greg the Heater in 2023. And one more thing, as we get to your comments, as we get to your phone calls, just want to show this was created by Monivision, Mr. Buckeye. There's a drinking game that goes on in the chat room, a responsible drinking game. Every time I say Cloak and Dagger, drink whenever Greg says Cloak and Dagger. It only counts when Greg says it. Have fun. Drink responsibly. Okay. I think that's pretty cool. All right. So if it's your coffee, if it's your orange juice, your favorite beverage, buckle in. Let's get to your comments and to your phone calls. Okay. Let's get caught up here. A lot of things going on. I know most people want to talk. They don't want to talk about the permanent rival list. They just want to see it. They just want to see it in the Big Ten. They want to see it in the SEC. What is it going to look like 2024 and beyond? But a lot of people want to see what the Pac-12 is going to look like here in 2024 and beyond. Okay, let's get to your comments. Jared Jones, we are live. We are live. Jay, nice to see you in the house. Smash that like button. Bruce Harris, boomer. Rebecca, nice to see you. I hear the Pac-12 is going streaming. Laura Weiss, hey y'all from West Texas. Nice to see you, Laura, in the house once again. Appreciate it. Jose, hello from Atlanta. Fight on. Fight on. Bo Lewis, hey, from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Go Blue. Nathan, nice to see you in the house. Every day is Cloak and Dagger. Back and forth on these survival odds. Your Mark needs to keep his foot on the gas. No guarantee, it seems. Immaculate, Brian, well, now actually caught the show at the start. Ray Matson, Sky Yuma. Sky Yuma, baby. Sky Yuma. Ryan Martin, what is RW? What does Sky Yuma mean? Well, I'll explain it right now. This is what we do at Peek Around the Corner. About 1903, 1904, 1908, something like that, some University of Minnesota students were sitting on the edge of the Mississippi River, and the Dakota Indians were racing across the river with their canoes. Multiple teams of Dakota Indians in their canoes racing across the river. And they noticed, the Minnesota students noticed, that whatever team got to the other side of the river first, they would yell, "Sky! Sky!" Well, they thought that meant victory. So Sky Yuma, Ma is Minnesota and Dakota. They thought, so they said Victory, University of Minnesota. Sky Yuma in the Dakota language. So that has been the tagline for the Gophers. Sky Yuma, Victory, Minnesota. Victory, University of Minnesota. Later it was found out that Sky did not mean victory. It just meant yay, rah, yahoo, y'all, whatever. That's what Sky really means. They thought it meant victory, but it stuck. Sky Yuma, Victory, University of Minnesota. Jerry Jones, Big Ten wants Pac-12 to take a streaming deal if it works. It gives the Big Ten great options for our next TV deal 7 years from now. Tu Masta, Cloak and Dagger. Immaculate, anyone actually watch a live stream of something? Does that actually sound enjoyable for watching a 3-hour game? If Apple Plus is all they can get, the Pac-12 is dead. Buckshot Kid, people keep talking about how everyone is streaming, but most people are pirating online streaming. Ray Anderson is a very bold man. Well, we said it here, Peek Around the Corner. January 31st, we went live. We said we got the nugget from an impeccable source. We went out there. We said they were frustrated. They have been. They have voiced it. Yes, this is what I've heard. Bob Dolan, I've watched Major League Baseball on Apple Plus on Friday nights. The picture and production is beautiful. The announcers were intolerable, but I have heard the picture is absolutely beautiful. Friday nights, Apple TV for baseball. So that is a good, thank you for that comment, Dolan. There is some positive stuff to this, right? Even Ray Anderson, if this happens in 2 to 3 weeks, financially, this could keep the conference together. It wasn't like a total rah, rah, rah type of comment. It was something, though. He had to speak. We've been waiting for it. But he did not hide the fact that they have been frustrated. They have voiced it. We got a lot of blowback here at Peek Around the Corner when we broke that. A lot of blowback. We got more information too, but we're gonna let it marinate. We're going to be going live tomorrow night or sometime tomorrow. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. because you'll get notified of when we're going to jump live, because we could jump any moment, anytime we have something that we think pushes the story forward, we deliver it. So subscribe to the channel, you get notified. Blue Ridge Coffee is the best coffee. Daniel Montecastle, Mr. Hoosier is in the house. Immaculate, relatively intact. What did Ray Anderson mean when he said that? We can relatively intact. We keep the conference relatively intact. I'm just going to throw out a guess. Maybe he thinks that they'll at least keep some of the ESPN, that ESPN will be one of their partners along with an Amazon, and that it's, so it's going to be sort of similar, relatively intact. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Again, people are going to take what Ray Anderson said in all different directions. But he finally spoke, and we have to cover it here at Peek Around the Corner. Matt Higgins, did Arizona State leak the Apple TV story? I do not know. I don't know about that. I do know, what Ray Anderson said, and we'll just post it here. Whoops. We'll just post it here real quick. Once again. May not be the projections originally contemplated, but will be solid enough financial situation. So he didn't really even touch upon the streaming, or he didn't touch upon anything of that nature. And I got a feeling he probably did that intentionally. Just my feeling on it. Again, you can take it any way you want it. There's a lot there. There's a lot in that article. Matt Higgins, Washington and Oregon moves first, and that gets back to what Anderson, a couple times there in that article that came out today. Ray Anderson says, we are not in control. We are not in the driver's seat, but it was very difficult for me to ascertain exactly who he was talking about. Arizona State in particular, the athletic directors in a group, or the entire Pac-12 conference, the 10 institutions. We are not in the driver's seat. I'm going to post that. I'm going to put that up real quick again here. Just give me a moment. Right here. Added Anderson, we've just been forced, like everyone else, unfortunately, to let this play out because we're not directly in the driver's seat. Not directly in the driver's seat. They're not the ones they're not a part of the executive committee? Is that what he means? Okay, let's get back to your comments. Mike K says the sports media is in the driver's seat. Okay. Tumasta, Big Ten doesn't make a move without Notre Dame. Immaculate says, I think Ray Anderson is saying Arizona State isn't in the driver's seat because they don't have two other conferences interested in them. Okay. Immaculate. Also, Arizona State just got themselves a new head football coach and are actively trying to excite donors and boosters into some of their NIL action. I think he's just telling them all is well. Give money. Interesting angle. Tony, Gophers versus Maryland. I don't love that. The Gophers have been playing the Terrapins a lot. We just went through that 6-year cycle. I know it's been reported that Maryland requested Iowa as one of their top 3 rivals. So they want to have a rival in the Midwest. I don't know. I hope it's not Maryland. Nothing against Maryland. But Minnesota, man, we've been in this conference for how long? Since day one. We were one of the original 6 members. I don't know. That's going to be tough. Maryland coming in to Huntington Bank Stadium doesn't help us sell all that many extra tickets that we need at Minnesota. Gregory Cugg, that Maryland-Minnesota rivalry is non-existent. I agree. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. Again, the number is 763-260-1333. I got a couple questions. You can talk about anything you want when you call. The phone lines aren't quite open yet. Give me another minute. You can talk about anything you want in college football. The lines of the games early on that just came out from FanDuel, or the permanent rival list that Tom Fornelli had for CBS Sports, or you can talk about the Ray Anderson situation. What did he mean by we're not in the driver's seat? Did you take that as a positive? Did you take it as a negative? What do you think? Okay. Let's open up the phone lines. Let's not waste any more time. Okay, whoever's just called again, because when I don't have the phone lines open yet, it doesn't work out. So please give another call. Rebecca, either he said they're not in the driver's seat because they're on the executive committee, or because the 2 schools are really running the show.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, nice for you to call. The floor is yours.
Hi, Greg.
How you doing, sir?
I mean, as I told you in Twitter DM, it is Greg the Cooler is now spreading over to Realignment. So, the minute Greg has the line on the Pac-12 negative, the minute he has the money against the Pac-12, that means it'll find survival. So,
yes.
So
I was actually helping the Pac-12.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's important, talking about streaming, on 365 yesterday, Sick'em 365, they had Bob Thompson on. And Bob pointed out that streaming has lost $11 billion in the past 4 years. Yeah. And early on, Wall Street was, concerned about subscribers, but now it's getting to the point that they want to see profit. And having dealt with this professionally in other areas, with online sports years ago, when I was with another firm, I worked on the Discovery's acquisition of Eurosports and a lot of that. And streaming's a tricky animal. It was back then, and it's a tricky animal now. And it was in its infancy then. But I think advertisers are still trying to figure out the pricing on the ads, and networks are still, or streaming partners are still trying to figure out the right mix of a formula as far as fee per use or subscriptions to kind of compensate for that. That's why you see Amazon thinking about having the separate pay sports app. That's why you see this. It's not on Apple TV. It's on Apple TV Plus, which you have to buy a subscription for. So, that's still being tweaked right now, and, it's still on a guarantee. The one thing that I would think that people also need to realize that there is a possibility in the future, and YouTube already does this with existing linear partners, that someone like YouTube could kind of circumvent or supplant all those streamers by just partnering with linear partners anyway to have it online through YouTube. So there's a lot of different things that are happening, and by no means is it exactly a safe bet. I mean, Brett Yormark hit the nail right on the head that it's a developing industry and it's a space you need to be, but at the same time, linear is the more important part right now. As far as the negotiations go, and just back on that point, Fox and ESPN and other sports providers aren't going away with streaming. They're not going to be taken over. They will find a way to adapt, and they will be competitive. That's what they do. They're businesses. They have strategic thinkers. They plan for this stuff. So I think it's a little bit of a nonsense for people to assume that the world will work the same as it does today 10 years from now. It's rarely how it works, and businesses adapt all the time. ESPN has absolutely zero incentive right now to budge on its deal with the Pac-12. Zero incentive. The money is what it is, and the plain reality is if there's no linear competitor out there to budge the price or to force them, and if they don't feel like it's something that they need to have, if it's a nice to have, and I said this on my last call, they have no incentive to move, and Amazon apparently, based on everything we've heard, just wants a premier game. I don't think they want to take on the risk of an entire league, and I don't think Apple, I actually think the Apple rumor was leaked more or less to try to pressure Amazon more than it was to actually float an idea. And I think whether it was intentional or not, it certainly didn't get the good response it wants. And I think if the Pac-12 goes down that road with Apple, and I think Apple's going to want all of the content, an exclusive level of content. It won't matter what you have in the next few years. If you are out of sight, out of mind, it won't matter if you have Coach Prime. It won't matter if you have NIL, because you won't be seen, and that will end up just absolutely killing. That will absolutely kill the front porch of the university. I have to say this, and it's going to be very, very clear with people. In academia, and I've worked with academia, I've worked in it, and I've worked with, and I publish with professors all the time on tax articles that I write. The reality is these research grants are applied for by individual professors. They're not applied for by the actual conference. The conference does not dole out grant or research money. There's a network of basically an established professional network. Sometimes there's a formal network like AAU. Sometimes it's informal. Nobody is going to leave and junk those relationships based on the logo painted on the field. That's delusional if you think that. And when we hear this argument about associations with like-minded institutions, we're really talking about what cocktail parties they want to attend. And if that's what they want, if that's what their focus is, then, they are very out of touch with a changing world. Just because you switch conferences doesn't mean that you can't continue professional relationships and research relationships. It doesn't mean that you can't form a separate independent network of people outside of athletics altogether. I think all of this is just a desperate excuse by people to come up with reasons for, quite frankly, the snobbery that I see, and I see it in the chat, the snobbery that I see of people that, I'm sorry, but your research doesn't, that's not what the networks care about. They don't care about that. And if you want to compete, if you want to be serious about athletics, then you got to be serious about athletics. And that means exposure. That means having money for the athletic department, which, by the way, grants can't go towards that. That means that you've got to actually seriously be focused on athletics. I understand, but, Ohio State puts the money into it, but so does Alabama, and they're not fooled by this. And schools that don't, like Northwestern, you see the results. They're rarely competitive in the Big Ten. And and it comes down to a question of priorities. And I think fans and boosters know that, and university presidents will have that reality. And the Pac just seems to make the same mistake over and over and over and over again. They chase dollars over common sense and exposure, and it will get them the same result every single time. It just amazes me that there's such poor management and lack of vision and understanding. And I will just leave you with something that people have told me many times before, and it's true. Some of the smartest people have no common sense whatsoever. And I will just leave it at that. And okay. I think that the world is changing, and you adapt. And if people want to thumb their nose up at joining the conference or being associated with another conference, if they want to have delusional beliefs that they're somehow going to get in the Big Ten, I can tell you right now, the Big Ten's only interested in 3 schools for the Pac-12. Only 3. Their prize, their eye, they want primarily the ACC. It's either Notre Dame or the ACC becoming available that will trigger expansion opportunities for Oregon, Washington, and Stanford. And everyone else, Utah, Colorado, Cal, put down the crack pipe and realize that you are not in the driver's seat, as Ray Anderson said, and that you need to wake up to reality, put the snooty snottiness around, focus on being competitive, focus on athletics, because, you can say what you want about TCU, but they were in the national championship game. You can say, what you want about Oklahoma State or Baylor, but they've been competitive. You look at the ratings up and down the chart from last year on ESPN and Fox, and Big 12 had 30% higher ratings. That's fact. And I think the issue is the fans have passion, the fan bases have passion. You see that in the Midwest, and if you want to call those people truck stop flyover country conferences, then you know what? You don't have to be part of the big money dole that comes out now and in 2026. Get out if you don't like it. I'm out, Greg.
All right. Thank you for the phone call. Appreciate it. Now, I agree with a lot of that, but the schools still want to associate with themselves with schools that are like themselves, right? Large research universities want to associate with them with large research universities, and there is some reasons for that beyond saying, "Hey, I get to rub elbows with so and so." They do collaborate on research. They do share libraries and all that stuff. Okay. Next call.
From
Rebecca, go Huskies.
Rebecca's in the house. Miss Husky, the floor is yours. What do you think about what Ray Anderson said today?
Ray Anderson basically, so I think he said what we already knew. Ray Anderson, I even put this in the chat. I'm like, Ray Anderson fired his coach on the field after a game this year. He doesn't hold back. I love that he's like that. Like, gosh, he's right. There are a lot of people who are thinking like that statement that they put together, some joint statement.
Yep.
He's saying things, but I'm like, nobody agrees on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't find a conference in America that everybody agrees 100%.
Nope. No way. Nope. You're correct.
Not exist.
Yeah.
Like, does the Big 12, do Big 12 fans really think that all of their member schools are okay with Texas having the Longhorn Network for all these years?
No.
No way.
No.
No way. There's no way Oklahoma was like, oh yeah, let's do that.
No, no. Yep.
There was a Big 12 game on the Longhorn Network this week. That can't be good. Like, I'm sorry and that's why Texas didn't join the Pac-12 was because all the members balked at it, including USC, who was like, "Oh no, you got to get rid of that," and they were like, "No." So it fell apart, mostly around the Longhorn Network. But I mean, people call it academic snobbery. The schools were founded on the conference was founded because everybody cheated in the 50s. And they made it, they literally made it a principle that academics matter. So it's a big thing. It's ingrained in the schools. And the reality of that, being associated with Stanford is a lot better than being associated with Baylor. It's just, I'm sorry, name a school in America that doesn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even Alabama, who spends vast amounts of money on athletics, would probably rather have Stanford in their conference than Vanderbilt. But there's a reason why Vanderbilt's in the conference.
I just, excuse me, Rebecca. I just got a direct message today, and I love all the direct messages I get. I get tons of them during the day with some questions. And someone asked me, do you ever see SEC and the Big Ten kicking any of these schools out years down the road? And they brought up the example of Vanderbilt. And I said, these SEC teams love having Vanderbilt in their conference. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. No, they're not kicking Vanderbilt out.
Nope.
No. It's an incredible school. They're so, yeah, continue on. Go ahead.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's saying that academics is, to the media partners, it doesn't matter. Nobody's saying that matters. What everybody's saying is that it matters to the schools. It matters to those presidents and chancellors. Like, that's a big deal. Like, we're sitting here, we're talking about, well, Oregon should be in the Big Ten, but you hear it from a lot of Big Ten folks. They don't want Oregon. And it has nothing to do with the fact that Oregon gets viewers. Like, has nothing to do with it. Washington and Oregon are massive. They're bigger, and they're more valuable than everybody in the Big 12 right now, not named Texas and Oklahoma. And they're out. So you take them out and you add in the newcomers, they're still worth more on a value scale. But Washington may not be worth as much as Oregon, let's say, but to the presidents, Washington's worth more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people see, like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And maybe one day, right, because maybe one day we'll see teams get kicked out of the conference. But, I mean, I've only seen it happen once in my lifetime. I think it was Temple, right? Greg, was that Temple that I'm thinking of?
Yep.
Like, the Big East kicked them out because they were horrible at everything, and they didn't bring any value to them as an actual school. Like, West Virginia was totally okay with that. Like, and they weren't in the Big Ten at the Big 12 at the time. They were in the Big East. They were okay with kicking Temple out. So, I mean, like I said, when the Pac-12 formed in the 50s, it was only 5 schools. Oregon and Oregon State actually got kicked out when they changed. Like, they did. That happened. But they let them back in like 6-7 years later when the conference expanded because they needed more schools. And then they added Washington State, which got them to 8. But it's a big deal on an academic side. Nobody is saying that, Baylor and them aren't worth more in terms of eyeballs. Nobody's saying that. What they're saying is that Stanford and Cal bring more value to the actual school presidents because the presidents are basically CEOs. They have to manage every department, and they have to balance both ways. The presidents don't answer to fans. They don't. They answer to donors and boosters. Because they're usually one and the same.
And that takes me to I gotta tell you though, this is a nuanced discussion. It's not all or nothing on this, right? Between academics and athletics. I gotta tell you though, BTM and his associates, I think you all know who they talk to. The money perch across this country. It's where we get our information. I can tell you what, boosters do not want an Apple TV deal. An exclusive Apple TV deal. They do not want it. So put that in your, or you can, or not, or you don't have to listen to it. But I'm just saying that's also part of it. George Kliavkoff has to thread the needle. Thread the needle. It's not, he's got to somehow get the right balance and make a lot of different parties happy enough to continue on with this association that we call the Pac-12.
Correct. And I also want people to know, like, it's been talked about, when the Pac-12 will always say something is 10-0, let's say in this case, the 10 have votes. It will always come out that the vote was 10-0.
Oh yeah, yes.
That is not, that's just what they're going to tell you. The vote would be like 6-4 or, well, they got to have 8. So it would be like 8-2. So if anything gets approved, it's most likely going to be an 8-2 situation, but they will all go along and say it was 10-0. That's why you're hearing this, like, we're together. That's why you see the, the statement get put out there, like, no, we're all in this, because that's how they will always present it to the media and the fans. They will never say that, because it would look horrible if you're like, well, Washington State didn't want to do this. I think, like, it's just important to know for everybody in the Midwest and the South and that to know how we think out West here.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And USC and UCLA, they're all right along the same kind of thinking. USC wanted to be more national. They got presented their opportunity, and I applaud them for taking it. They got a shot. Like, do it, right?
Yeah.
So if their ideal is to be a national brand, the Big Ten was their chance. You don't say no to a chance. They jumped on it. It makes perfect sense for them.
Yeah.
Pac-12 is just trying to do what they can. They're, streaming. I don't like the idea of a streaming deal. I think it's stupid. 100% just makes like 5 years from now, I'd be like, okay, be cool, because it probably will be the thing. But until Apple or Amazon have, like, until you can easily access them, say via like a Hulu or, like another streaming like platform, like Fubo or something like that, like whatever it's called, like until you can actually get on there and actually like flip it like it's a channel, it's not the easiest thing to get to. And the biggest complaint about Apple TV on baseball outside of the announcers was having to get to that app. It's not the easiest app to get to. Mm-hmm. And now the MLS fans here in Seattle are already complaining about having to try to find Sounders matches on Apple TV because it's not an easy app to just navigate to. Yeah. Everybody can get it. Trust me, you can all get it. There is like a paywall, I think. There is a paywall, but when you sign up for it, you get everything. It's not just sports. Yeah. You get everything. Yeah. So, but I don't want to take up too much time, Greg. I just want to let people know this is kind of how we think out West. They were very laid back. That's why none of this is stressing us out. I may sound delusional to people, but it's mostly because I don't control anything. I have to go with the flow here. I can be mad, but there's no point in expressing it, right? Like outside of just like trying to help people understand our thoughts. But go Huskies.
All right.
And Greg, if the Cornhuskers beat the Gophers in week 1, I'm going to be a very disappointed Husky.
Oh, the pain of that. That better not happen. We're going to be doing a live watch party August 31st, so join us at Peek Around the Corner.
Woo! But I'm going to laugh if Colorado, I'll say this about Colorado TCU. I don't know who to pick in that game. Yeah. Maybe Big 12 fans can tell me. I don't know who's returning for TCU because, Colorado just turned into NFL free agency. So if anybody can help me figure out who to pick in that game, that would be great.
Got it.
Anyway, go Huskies.
Thank you.
The Ducks. Yeah.
Well, a lot of it will have to do with TCU's quarterback Chandler Morris coming back from injury. He was supposed to be the starting quarterback for TCU, but he got injured. So then Max Duggan came in. It's about his fourth year at TCU, and he had an unbelievable season. They got Trey Sanders, the running back, a transfer from Alabama. You remember him? So Trey Sanders, excuse me. So anyways, TCU favored by 17.5 points over the Buffaloes. Motivision. The Big Ten doesn't see enough value in any school in the Pac. I don't know about that. They don't see the value in making an expansion move out in the Pacific Coast right now. That's why the expansion button was paused, because no further expansion in the Big Ten for now out west. But there's a whole bunch of other variables that go into that decision. One, Notre Dame. Second is the Big Ten is looking at their total composition, what it would look like in a 20 school conference. So yes, that's true, but we've often said here at Peek Around the Corner, there are people in the Big Ten who really do value Washington and Oregon, even though they're not a big research university. They're a brand multiplier. That's valuable. That's not going away anytime soon. Oregon, Washington is a rivalry that can sell for your media company and whoever you add on. But right now, we don't have any intel that says the Big Ten expansion door is open. But Pete Thamel said it was open. It was cracked open. So, but we're still being told no on that. But I just want to make sure it's not like Washington and Oregon, and they have supporters in the Big Ten. They do. We know it. Doesn't mean it's ever going to happen, but they have support. Okay, and this story about Oregon and Washington going to the Big 12, being offered 115%, 125%, whatever, that is, Big 12's not going to unequal revenue sharing to bring Oregon, Washington, or anybody into the conference. They're not doing that. And if they brought Oregon and Washington in, it would lift all their boats up about $2 million each. Oregon and Washington, we don't believe they're going to the Big 12, don't get me wrong. But the idea that the Big 12 would offer Oregon and Washington 115%, 125%, whatever, of their current the upcoming media contract, in which they're all going to be getting $31.7 million, that's not, Big 12's not doing that. Big 12's not doing that. They're not going to unequal revenue sharing to bring schools in. Don't know where that came from. I have no idea where this stuff starts. So just peek around the corner. There is no deal out there, no offer. Oregon, Washington to come in at 115, 100. They're not, Big 12 has no reason to do unequal revenue sharing. Those schools in the Big 12, are you kidding? TCU is going to make $31.7 million and they bring Washington in, and they're going to say, oh, wait, Washington can make $5 million more than us. No problem. That's not happening, folks.
Call from
Moen.
Mr. Buckeye, the house is yours. And by the way, that video that we played early about the cloak and dagger, the rules, that was created by the one and only Moen Vision. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Greg. How's the weather up there?
You know what? It wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. Here in the northern metro area, we didn't get hit. We didn't get hit like, there's over a foot of snow in other parts of Minnesota, but we did okay. We survived it.
It was 74 here today, Greg.
Where are you? I don't even know where you are. Columbus?
I'm just southeast of Columbus, about an hour out of Columbus.
Yeah.
It was 74 degrees.
We won't hit 74 in Minnesota for June. I mean, that's
don't worry. Tomorrow it's supposed to be 29. So
something's coming in.
Yeah. But I know everybody wants to talk about the Pac and all that stuff, but I mean, there's only so many ways we can say this. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the rivals.
Yep.
I saw you had his projections up there. Obviously, I don't agree with his projections either.
I'll put them up right as you're talking. I'm going to put them up.
Yeah, I don't agree with his projections, but that was part of the meeting. I think I was pushed yesterday or the day before. They're still fighting back and forth on who's getting what rivalry. And I think a lot of it's coming from these smaller schools. They're probably feeling that they're getting pushed out. Like I said, from what I've heard, Ohio State's rivals would be USC, Michigan, and Illinois. So we would lose our rivalry. We play with Indiana every year. We'd lose Michigan State game. People who consider them rivals of us. The Michigan rivalries, Michigan would lose Michigan State in the rumored rivalries that I heard. Michigan would get UCLA, Minnesota, and Wisconsin.
Yeah, that don't make sense. Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I think this is probably the reason that they all got pushed. I don't think anybody's going to end up being happy with all three rivals they get. I don't. I think there's going to be one rivalry that everybody's just going to say, well, I hate that.
Yeah.
I know Penn State was really upset because they were going to get Maryland and Rutgers, and they didn't want to get both of them. But, I mean, I don't know.
According to
I don't know that there's any. Yeah, I don't think there's any rivalry that makes sense for every team. You know what I mean? I don't think any team is going to get that perfect set of rivals. So, and I know that his article, he put a lot of it on travel concerns, but I think there's unique opportunities to limit the travel for the West Coast teams. You could schedule USC for a 2-game road trip to play Northwestern and Illinois and just have them stay in Chicago for the week. Use another facility to do their walkthroughs for the week. Get those students from USC a chance to get out to Chicago and see some of the sites in Chicago, and they can use satellite learning to keep them up academically. I don't think that it has to be a situation where you've got USC flying back and forth week after week. Likewise with UCLA. But I briefly talked about this, I believe, 2 shows ago, doing a neutral site game on the West Coast to try and alleviate some travel concerns. But I had another, and this one's a little more complicated, Greg, but I think it might work. What about entering into a most favored nations clause with the University of California?
What?
Okay, a most favored nations clause is something that's used in business to saying this is our best client, we're going to lock in the best prices.
Yep.
So what the Big Ten would do, in lieu of paying calimony, they would require 3 of their teams to schedule out-of-conference games at California each year. And then the following week, that team would stay over in California, and then the following week they'd play USC or UCLA. So you could have Northwestern travel out and play Cal one week, stay there a week, and then travel down to Southern California to play UCLA or USC.
I'm thinking California would tell Big Ten to stick it, probably.
You'd think so, with the amount of money they would make off ticket sales from getting an Ohio State or a Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, you would rotate through I couldn't see Cal turning down that opportunity.
I don't see them doing it because these universities, they don't have a whole lot of control over things, but one of the things they somewhat have control, somewhat, is their scheduling. They like to have control of it, and I don't think they want to be dictated, even though they're getting some money. That money isn't, I don't know. Interesting thought.
Just like I said, just trying to think out of the box. Understand there's ways that we can reduce travel concerns for the student athletes involved, and possibly take a little bit of that calimony away, even if we don't take it all away.
That's
try and get that number down from the 12 million I think they put on the top end. But yeah, that's just thinking outside the box, and
that's what we
before I get
love.
off here, I would just say one more thing, Greg.
Yes.
This is important.
Yes.
No future Big Ten expansion without Notre Dame.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Go Buckeyes.
Great call by Monavision, Mr. Buckeye. Robert Perez, Fresno State to the Big 12. He's hoping for it.
Call from
Crab cakes and football.
I'm sorry, I did not get the name.
Crab cakes and football. My name's Jeff.
Crab cakes and football. Terrapins in the house. Thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
I got a couple of things. One, why doesn't the Pac-12 just privatize their conference? They've got all these big donors out there. They can go ahead and get someone to pay $5 billion for the conference, distribute the money the way they want to amongst the 10 schools. I got this from another source, another thing.
Yep.
And then they can turn around for pennies on the dollar, sell the TV rights to ESPN or whoever else they want to do, and they get a chance to put their name onto the Pac-10, as it would be now.
Yep.
And they would sell their brand, and they would turn around and still get the coverage for the Pac-10. I think that'd be a good idea. I don't know if they would do it because I don't know if they would own the Pac-10 or if they would just be like borrowed or how all the inner workings of that sounds. But privatizing it, I think, is really the only good solution that's left.
That's it.
If you want to keep all 10.
That's an interesting concept. I think, for example, we're just speculating here, right? We're just trying to think outside the box. A private company comes in and says to each one of those Pac-12 schools, I'll give you $300 million a year for the next 6 years. Okay, that's $1.8 billion. Those $300 million, you distribute it, probably $30 million per school, but we get to whatever product and services our business has, we're going to advertise the bejesus out of it using your platform, your live sports. We're going to throw it all on your football fields, on your stadiums, right? And
Oregon and Nike, that's a good one.
Yep. And then again, it goes back to where is your product going to be seen? What still you have the question of who's going to distribute your live content. But I understand what you're saying. It's interesting.
I don't know what that price would be. I don't know what the price that Nike or Verizon or whoever would pay for the Pac-10. Let's just say they're generous and they give $3 billion or something stupid like that.
Okay,
it's not quite, and they divide it by 10. Okay, now they turn around to ESPN and say, okay, we want to get this, and we want Fox, who would like you to at least throw a game in here every now and then, give a dog a bone kind of thing. Just earn a little bit of their money back. That way, they get a little bit of, a good game here and there, maybe not every single game. And then on top of that, they get a chance to earn their money back through advertisements, and then it just builds. Now maybe Fox, ESPN, CBS, ABC, whoever, even maybe a streaming service, whoever, just like,
Yep.
you know what? Let's do a little bit more next year, and then they build. And you're not going to get it all at one time. You just build it, and if all 10 stick together, and nothing stupid happens like Washington, Oregon leaving for the Big Ten, which I do not want Oregon in the Big Ten. I'm a Maryland fan. We're UA, Under Armour. So forget Nike.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's good.
So turn around, and if you build it, and then after the product, if they seriously take their football and everything serious and other sports, and they start building their product and everything else and getting up there, they're going to have the playoffs. They're going to automatically get a team in the playoffs. So now, whoever that team is this year, Oregon, Washington State, Stanford, Cal, which will never happen, but whoever, gets in there. Now they get featured on TV more often. It helps build that. And the same thing with the Big 12, although I don't think they need to go privatize yet. I think Yormark's doing a great job there.
Yeah.
But they need to keep their members. I know West Virginia's not exactly happy, and I know Kansas is really wanting the Big Ten, but they're never going to get that invite. Not until something drastic happens.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Crab cake and football? Okay, I got up on the screen here. Big Ten permanent rivals. We've got Tom Pernelli.
I was calling you about that too.
Okay, all right. Now, we did hear reports out of Maryland 247, at least one media outlet out of Maryland that says that out of the 3 rivals that, each of these schools, I think they presented 3 to 5, they listed them, who they wanted the rivals to be, and I think it went 1 through 5, and Maryland had Iowa, I think, as their 3rd request.
Yeah.
Okay.
I read about that.
Okay, what do you think about that? What do you think about Fornelli having Minnesota as one of Maryland's rivals?
Okay. I'm going to take that 2 different ways. So we're going to go to Iowa one first. I think that was a bluff.
Yep.
I don't think Maryland, as long as Maryland gets Penn State, and we already know we're going to get Rutgers because we came in at the same time.
Yep.
So we already know those 2. I don't think we really care who the 3rd one is. If they need Maryland to, hey, we want you to play so-and-so just because, whatever, they'll probably do it.
Yeah.
I don't really think, and we would like to get a Michigan State. I think that we played pretty good with them. We played really good with Minnesota in 2020, Tagovailoa versus Abraham. That was a classic. That game was a classic.
Yeah.
So
we've had some games, no question.
Yeah. So I mean, I understand rivalries are going to get broken up, and everything that comes along with the program of adding members, especially but I respect the heck out of Minnesota. We should call it the Lakes versus the Bay game, because you get the Minnesota Lakes and the Chesapeake Bay. There you go.
Yeah.
The Lakes versus the Bay game.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And what's with the Maryland hate? I know you're not quite hating on Maryland, but I know everybody. I understand we had the tragedy, and then we had to deal with the COVID, and we were really down years when everything else. We got through all that. Now we're starting to finally claw our way out of the gutter. Had a 7-6 and 8-5 season. Last year we didn't quite live up to expectations. We were hoping for that, 8-4, 9-3, but we got to learn how to win some of these games.
Well, I'm not hating Maryland. That's for sure. I've got them. Look, I always said about Maryland football, they look great coming off the bus, right? You've always had the athletes. Not quite the skill, but now you're getting both.
Correct.
Yeah. So, no, look, we're probably going to no divisions, right? That's going to help Maryland a lot. That's going to hurt my Gophers a lot. So things are looking up for the Terrapins. No question about it.
I mean, imagine playing Ohio State, and then you got to play Penn State. Now you got to play Michigan. Now you got to play Michigan State.
Yeah.
And we'll just pretend that Indiana and Rutgers has got a down year. Let's just say that they're having a really. He's still playing 4 perennial top 10 teams right there.
Yeah.
Especially Michigan State decides to actually play good instead of bad.
No question.
And we should have beat Ohio State. We let it vote. That was our letdown. We
Yeah.
let ourselves down on that one, and we daggum sure should have beat Michigan. 2
Yeah.
interceptions that weren't, and with that first play at a freaking game that I wish we could get back. Other
Yeah.
than that, we probably should have won that game. So at least we're starting to play with them. We're not beating them, but at least we're playing with them. That's a start. So you
Yeah.
got to learn how to lose before
And
you learn how to win.
that receiver room you guys had last year, and
It's crazy.
man, a lot of
So-
talent. I'm telling you. No, I'm not hating
And-
on them. As a Gopher fan, it's just our rivals should be. I know none of us is going to get everything we want, but it should be Iowa and Wisconsin, and we're going to get those two. And then I can understand we're not going to get Nebraska because Nebraska is going to be playing UCLA. I get it, right? The way the Nebraska Cornhuskers fan base travel, UCLA is going to want help to fill up that stadium. Nebraska will go there. I get all that. So we're going to lose Nebraska. But then really the Gophers should have Michigan. Even though that's a loss on the schedule, 19 out of every 20 years for the Gophers, we should really get Michigan because we were rivals for decades. Decades. It was Michigan, Minnesota, not only on the field, but behind the scenes. Minnesota and Michigan battled for the heart and soul of the conference for decades. When the conference expanded in the 50s, it was either going to be between Michigan State and University of Pittsburgh. And Michigan sponsored Pittsburgh. And Minnesota sponsored Michigan State. And at that time, Michigan State was not AAU. They were not the university that University of Pittsburgh was in 1950, 51, 52. It was a battle behind the scenes. And University of Minnesota, back then when we had clout, won the battle. So that's how Michigan State became a Big Ten member, and Pittsburgh did not. We have been fighting ever since. We are the two premier hockey programs, right? We just have this. Michigan and Notre Dame have this incredible hate. I wouldn't say Minnesota, Michigan has a hate, but they've beaten up on each. Now Michigan has beaten up on Minnesota for a long, long, long time. No question about it in football and in basketball, but even in baseball back in the 50s and 60s. We have this common we ram into each other constantly. So we would like to have them as a rival, even though they're going to kick our butts 19 out of every 20 years or 24 out of every 25 years. So I'm not trying to rip on Maryland. You can put any school.
Oh, I know. I was just joking. Everybody considers it an outcast, and technically we are. The only reason we left the ACC is for the reasons they got now, money.
Well,
they didn't pay us, and then they were treating us like crap. So we
well,
left.
Who was the Maryland's president? That lady. What was her name?
Deborah Yao.
Yeah. Look. They should build a statue for her. They should. They should. Maryland made the move that Virginia should have made. Period. Right?
They should have.
Right? Maryland got the spot. And just wait, the next 13 years or whatever, it's going to pay for itself over and over and over and over again.
Well, look at it this way.
Yeah.
We got 15 to 18 million people in the DMV area.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, not all of them watch Maryland, but they do watch Penn State. They do watch USC. They do watch Wisconsin. They do watch Minnesota. They do. So, that's another reason why Maryland was so valuable, because we bring literally a really large TV market.
Yes.
And then on top of that, everybody who says that Maryland's not worth the water they bring, we have the third, it might be fourth now, but we'll go with third for now. Third most conference championships in all sports since joining the Big Ten. So, we've actually lived up. The only thing we got to do is just bring our football up to task, and Loxley's trying to do that. So.
And I think you're right there. So
I'll leave you alone,
right.
Greg. I enjoy your show, and I'd figure I'd give you a call. I want to
beautiful
tease
call.
you a little
Thank
bit,
you. Crab cakes and football. Please call again, sir.
Yeah, I will. Later.
Thank you. All right. Kirk Richardson. Is Florida State the school that challenges the ACC Gore in 2007, 2028? If so, what's their basis for challenging it? Could it be they were promised by Swarford the rights plus ACC network would pay competitively versus the Big Ten and the SEC? There's a story that's ripening out in the East that we've talked about here, peek around the corner. I will only say this. If the Gore is challenged by anybody in the ACC, they're going to do it individually. They're not going to do it as a collective, and they're going to do it before 2027-28. Because if you challenge the grant of rights, it's going to take time. It's, if you're going to challenge it in 27-28, it's not going to get resolved for years down the road. So what's the point? So if that challenge happens, if someone pulls the trigger, it's going to happen relatively, possibly in the next 12 to 18 months. FSU has donors that plan to challenge the Gore. Well, if you're going to challenge the Gore, you're going to have a war chest. That may or may not be part of the story. But we're not going to get too deep into it here, peek around the corner. We were asked to stand down on December 26th, and we're going to keep our word on that. Son of Sarek, Maryland fits in the Big Ten. Size, scope, location, culture. It made sense to move to the Big Ten.
Call from
Lewis.
Yes, sir. Lewis?
Good evening.
The floor is yours, sir.
Well, on the Arizona State Athletic Director, I saw that as a song and a prayer is what I saw that whole thing. It was very all over the place language. It covered a lot of different bases. I'm a lawyer, and that's how I would want to write something. It's almost as if you thought maybe their lawyer wrote that to sort of fit every situation. Nobody's going to come out and say anything on the record publicly to present any kind of a doomsday scenario. With that said, I still think begrudgingly that the Pac-12 will stay together, and I'm predicting the deal will be announced on the Thursday of the conference championship games during the Pac-12 tournament when there was a lot of basketball on. So if it's a bad deal, they just won't get the coverage. It's that old political thing where you bury the worst Friday trash.
Yes.
They're going to take out the trash on Thursday because it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be below the Big 12 in money with ESPN and Amazon for lower money, or Apple will work their way in. I don't think they'll go Apple exclusively. It might be for a little more money, but with about half the content on Apple. And then there'll be, and maybe even Amazon for the big game. And again, they'll have very limited linear, but they will, I think, stay together. And the whole issue, to get to the question, who's not in the driver's seat, it's one of two possibilities, and it's a leverage play in both situations. My read of it first was that the Pac-12 has no leverage in the driver's seat, that there aren't a lot of suitors. CBS is out. Fox wasn't in the deal. When you don't have a lot of suitors, it's really hard to be in the driver's seat. It's really whoever's providing it. And so the leverage there, if anyone thought Apple was going to be leveraged to push ESPN and Amazon, that was a misplay because I don't see that being the case at all. The three of them together could carve up the deal in some way, but just because Apple's involved isn't going to it's not going to cause ESPN to raise their money or Amazon. So the other leverage is Oregon and Washington. And there's a lot of unfounded rumors, and they are unfounded. But it wouldn't be shocking that, or through intermediaries, Oregon and Washington talking to the Big 12. Well, they should be because Oregon and Washington should be playing leverage in this situation while they're working out the TV deal, because they are far apart, and they're in a different situation than the other 8 schools left in the Pac-12. If they're not out there playing one side against the other, even though they ultimately want to stay in the Pac-12, and they will stay in the Pac-12, they're going to play whatever they can to get either some kind of a concession on exit, or to get an unequal revenue sharing, or get some kind of a sweetener to stay. Because if Oregon and Washington were to leave, that whole house of cards falls apart. They need Oregon and Washington.
Yeah.
And with that said, I don't think the Big 12 would ever give them unequal revenue sharing, but I will say there are 2 things about this situation that are different from others with the Big 12. Now, this is going to happen, just 2 different things. First, the Big 12 just got a barrel of money from Texas and Oklahoma for leaving that they could, if they wanted to, they could use it to help make an acquisition. And the second issue is if Brett Yormark told the president this is in the best interest, I think he has the kind of sway, the kind of sales sway, the persuasiveness. He could sell them on a deal that another commissioner could not. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't think it will. But where I think it will ultimately end up is Oregon and Washington will stay in the Pac-12. They'll get some kind of a deal. It won't be great. We don't know what kind of concessions they will get, but they'll stay involved with mostly or at least 50 to 60% streaming, and they'll go forward. That's where it will probably end up and be announced in 2 to 3 weeks. So that's where I see it. So it's a song and a prayer from Arizona State.
Yeah.
It covers all bases. It covers the possibility of Oregon and Washington about there being some instability. And at the end of the day, these interviews don't mean much to me. It's what people say behind closed doors off the record to the reporters is what really matters, not what they're saying on the record. Now, very quickly, on the Big Ten situation, CBS and NBC paid a barrel full of money for the rights.
Yeah.
So if they want Ohio State and USC or Michigan and UCLA to play, they should play. I mean, Michigan and Ohio State, they're the Duke and Carolina of basketball. Duke always in basketball gets a tough schedule in that situation, or they want Duke to play the big non-conference games because they're the draw. Ohio State and Michigan are the draws of the conference, and with the 12-team playoff, it's not the end of the world if you play a tough schedule and lose a game, because you can still get into the playoff if you finish second or third in the Big Ten with a good schedule. So I think that the top teams are going to play the West Coast teams when that's said and done. And finally, Neil Brown, I read where they are doing a high school clinic at West Virginia for Neil Brown and the high school coaches. And I think it's great that Neil Brown will perhaps get some tips from the high school coaches in West Virginia on how to win a football game. And so,
man.
because the program, I can't believe the Mountaineers are favored by a point in that game. I know the game's in Morgantown. It's a backyard brawl, but Neil Brown is just has been an atrocious coach. You saw it firsthand with the bowl game last year. That bowl game played in the middle of the night when Minnesota, it was just a mismatch. At West Virginia, that's emblematic. That's West Virginia football. So with that said, we'll see what happens. But I think the Pac-12 is going to squeak through, but it's still too hard to say what ultimately happens. I don't believe any athletic director is going to say anything revealing publicly. It's all going to be leaked out like it's always been. And I hope it ends in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm kind of sick of the story, to be honest.
Yeah. There's so much more we got to get to before we even get to the spring football games. Thanks for the call, sir. I appreciate it, Lewis. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I have no information on the commissioner search. None whatsoever. Hopefully it happens sometime in April, but no information for you. Jared Jones, thank you for your donation. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on. Keep the lights on. Great show, great people, great conversation. Love this place. Jared, I love you coming in here, Mr. Buckeye, and I know you're getting worried. I know you and Mona Vision are getting worried about the second to the last game of the season. The Gophers are visiting. Ohio State. The Buckeyes are going to be favored by 31 points, and we're going to come in there and Who knows? Probably miss a field goal and lose 45-10 or something like that. Donation for Greg to get the best production equipment so he can bid on Pac-12 content. Thank you, Rebecca, for your donation, for your continued generosity to the show. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. Lewis is a legend. Fantastic phone calls. Absolutely fantastic. Unbelievable. If he stops calling this show, it is my loss. My loss, our loss. Great call, Lewis, from Bob Husley. Absolutely. Praise the Lord, Greg. Praise you, Mr. Green. Praise the Lord. Absolutely.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Brian is in the house. The floor is yours, sir.
Greg, good evening to you. How you doing today?
Doing good. Doing good.
Having fun watching, but I wanted to talk about the scheduling first. Being from Iowa, I actually am surprised to see their schedule, if that's true.
Well, no, it's just Tom Fornelli's projections, how he thinks it's going to happen, but it's not official.
Does he think that because of what the SEC is saying about theirs?
I don't know. I don't know how. I do have a link. In the description box. I did not do the whole article here, so you can give it a read. He goes into some reasoning on why he picked some of these rivals for some of these schools. But for Iowa, it's Minnesota, Nebraska, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that'd be great for them. I was surprised. I thought Iowa would get kicked around in this. Being from Iowa, that tends to be how it goes.
Yeah.
But I think that he actually took this from what the rumored schedule is going to be in the SEC, where they're going to do these 3 permanent rivals. And as far as I know from the Big Ten so far, they don't have any plans for 2024 yet with USC, UCLA, and I just imagine it's because who really wants to be paired up with UCLA and USC? No one really knows how long this system's going to last before they can get control and have their votes and get back to having divisions. But yeah, I'm not quite sure if I actually think this is how it's going to go, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, it doesn't sound like the Big Ten has made this final decision. It sounds like there's quite a bit of back and forth still going on.
I think they're expecting some more to happen, and I agree with Mo and Vision that it's going to be centered around Notre Dame, and it's going to be sooner rather than later.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, the whole story that Notre Dame doesn't have $2 million to pay off a coach is a joke. I think that they're probably having to start stacking some cash for a buyout or an exit fee. Once you have to start gathering that amount, like $100 million or more, $2 million all of a sudden is a big deal.
Yeah. We did have a comment in the comments section. I've lost it. But someone put up the comment of Swarbrick, what he said today during a question and answer period.
Oh, about being independent?
Yeah. And he was hyping it up. He's still hyping it up that independence is basically exactly where they want to be and all that stuff.
I think your other caller kind of hit the nail on the head without even trying in terms of a lot of these guys, they speak lawyer speak. And he was talking about Ray Anderson. And Ray Anderson actually is a lawyer. He's from Harvard. He's a sports lawyer. So that's how I see that, though. I don't see Notre Dame staying independent. I don't see them getting another deal with NBC, but I know you don't want to go too far into the ACC talk, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah.
But my question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
To go into, you talked about this rumor about Washington and Oregon to the Big 12, and I'd say under normal circumstances it just sounds ridiculous. But if you're the Big 12 and you actually think Washington and Oregon are going to go to the Big 10 sometime, then does it really hurt to offer them 110%? They're going to be gone anyways.
I just think it's not good practice. It's something.
It's very unique, but
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, and I'm not sure if I have the intellect or the vocabulary to explain why. I just don't see those 10 Big 12 schools, or I'm sorry, the 12 Big 12 schools, the 12 Big 12 schools, current, after, not counting Oklahoma and Texas. I do not see them coming together and saying, yeah, let's offer them a little bit more money. Look, if you get Oregon and Washington, and I don't think the Big 12 will, I don't think that's in play. But if, let's say you did, they're an additive to your conference. They would add to your media contract. Now, they're not going to add a whole lot, but they would. Those Big 12 schools would go to 31.7 million to, I don't know, 33, 34 million each, whatever. And they would get full. Washington and Oregon would get full. They would get the full shooting match, right? They become full invested members of the Big 12. They wouldn't have to climb their way in. I was listening to the Monty Show. I haven't watched that program before, and right away they're saying Washington and Oregon, if they went to the Big 12, they would not get full membership. And I quickly turned it off because yes, of course they would. Of course they would. I didn't understand that at all. So, but I don't see it happening. But they're not going to give them more. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think you can't find a precedent for it, so that makes it very hard for any to believe. And I totally understand that. But if the purpose isn't to get them in your conference, but it's actually to get the ball rolling about all the rest, then I'd say it's actually worth it. And you could even argue that 110% for however long it is worth the rest of what you get if it breaks that dam. Now, whether it's even true or not, people can believe it or disbelieve it. I certainly don't know. Yeah. But on face value, if it's true, I actually think it's kind of a visionary call on that guy's part to do that. Not because it's looking past that move towards other moves, in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
But what was the other third thing that you wanted to talk about, though?
I don't remember. Don't remember.
But that works for me. That's what I was kind of interested in, though, is the where they got that scheduling from, because it sounded like the SEC's deal. But I appreciate you having me on, man.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Call again. Appreciate the phone call.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Monovision, there shan't be any impending enlargement of thy conference sans the incorporation of Notre Dame. Easier for you to write it than for me to say it, Monovision. Thank you again for your donation, your continued generosity to the show. I appreciate it, good sir. Mr. Buckeye, helping us keep the lights on here at PATC. Bruce Harris is coming in for singing lessons. Boomer Sooner. Well, there's a whole bunch of songs I still got to get to. Rebecca, if you're in the house, please send. That Division III Evergreen State. I only can find one video on YouTube about them singing that fight song, and they're in a gymnasium, and there's a lady leading a whole group of students. So I can't find that song other than that. So please send it to me, and I'll try to see what I can do. I still have Rock Chalk, Boomer Sooner. I'll get to these songs as soon as I possibly can. Thank you for the donations, Bruce. I'm going to nail that song. I'm going to nail Boomer Sooner. The last song I did was The Man in Black by Johnny Cash, and I really struggled. Okay. Back to your comments. Scott Geyer, Greg, do you or MTM Big Ten man think expansion is on hold till the TV contracts are signed for the 12-team playoffs? If Fox gets a piece, if ESPN gets a piece, does CBS, NBC get a piece? Not quite. Not quite. But in and around when those decisions are made for 2026, could there be more expansion in the Big Ten? Yes. How that works in 2026 is either going to give great incentive for SEC and Big Ten to expand toward 20 schools or not give them great incentive. I think it probably will. If, for example, if in 2026, whoever gets invited in the room to vote on this stuff, 2026, if it remains a 12-team playoffs, I don't think it's going to be 6-6. I don't think it's going to be 6 conference champions and 6 at large. It'll probably be more like 4 and 8, 8 at large. Or if they go to 16 teams, it's not going to be 8 and 8, 8 top ranked conference champions and 8 at larges. It's probably going to be a 6 and a 10 or 4 and a 12. I think the at-large bids are going to grow. And if they do, that incentivizes, that makes it possible, that greases the skids for SEC and the Big Ten to finally reach that 20-team conference structure, which is workable, very doable on so many different levels. Again, the battles are going to be waged here in 2023, 2024, early 2025 to see what 2026 is going to look like. And that's going to have big repercussions on how big SEC and the Big Ten go. What do the Big 12 do? Does the Pac-12 survive past their next media contract? 2026, the great gold rush. That's going to decide a lot. It's going to decide Notre Dame's fate, if they can remain independent or not. That next NBC contract or whoever Notre Dame gets money from, are they going to get enough revenue to keep it going as an independent? Phone number 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Once again, we're talking about Ray Anderson. He finally speaks in public. There's a lot to go through that article. We put a link in the description box below the video of that whole article. Give it a read. Now, the one point of that article that I keep bringing up is, and I'm gonna put it up here. Let's see here. Did I already screw this up? I want to get to that point. Hold on 1 second, everybody. 1 second. We're going to get back to the article. Lewis, thank you so much for your generosity. Great show. Happy to keep the lights on. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Lewis, appreciate you, good sir. Let's see what we can do here. Back to the article. Main storyline that we're talking about tonight at Peek Around the Corner. This is Ray Anderson. Ray Anderson on Arizona Sports, we're managing it by being patient and letting the process with our new commissioner take its course. It's been challenging and it's been frustrating. I don't think anybody can deny that. So don't go out there and say it's all bunnies and roses. Anderson told Bricky and Marata when he joined Arizona Sports on Thursday. And so we've had to be patient because, very frankly, we're not in control. We certainly believe in the value of this market and certainly the value of Arizona State as this institution brings to the Pac-12 conference. Anderson, though, believes a resolution is on the horizon with the Pac-12's current contract with ESPN and Fox ending after next season. He is confident the Pac-12 and Commissioner George Kliavkoff will reach a deal that keeps things relatively intact. The Arizona State leader said that he could see a media rights deal close in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Again, the one part of this article, the one point of what Ray Anderson said that I think is the most valuable is he is putting the line in the sand. He expects this sucker to get done in 2 to 3 weeks. Get it done, because if it doesn't get done, chaos. All hell's going to break loose. But the Arizona State leader said he could see a media rights deal close in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But assurances is a very strong word. Guarantees, assurances. Can you promise? I can't. I can't speculate. Then we go down here later in the article. Certainly we're all anxious to have something resolved here in the next 3 weeks. Again, he puts it down, 2 to 3 weeks. That takes us to middle of March at the latest. So we can take the next steps and get some of the speculation out of the air in regard to what other conferences may be thinking in terms of trying to pick off Pac-10 teams, if you will, and what we may do in terms of adding institutions. Getting a media rights deal will clear the air for figuring out some of that other stuff. So get the deal done in 2 to 3 weeks from now. That's the deadline. Added Anderson, we've just been forced, like everyone else, unfortunately, to let this thing play out because we're not directly in the driver's seat. Arizona State's not in the driver's seat. Or is it the athletic director's not in the driver's seat? Or is it the entire Pac-12 president's not in the driver's seat? The whole Pac-12 conference? I got a feeling he's talking about Arizona State because he's talking to Arizona Sports. So what he's saying is, look, we have to just let this thing play out because we're not the ones calling the shots here. That being said, we have confidence our commissioners and our presidents and chancellors are going to get to a place where our media rights deal and a grant of rights is done. That grant of rights, it may not be the projections originally contemplated, but it will be solid enough financial situation to keep this conference together, and then we will really work hard to move forward positively. It may not, the projections, we're not going to get to what we thought we were going to get to, but it will be solid enough financial situation. In other words, we're going to get enough money. The exposure part of it, the visibility part of it, But financial, we're going to get that piece done. We're going to be okay, solid enough to keep this conference together. Not to flourish, right? But to keep this conference together. That's the main storyline of tonight. Ray Anderson finally speaks. finally speaks. Monovision, take the money and run. They might be able to get an offer through Apple TV, Amazon, a whole lot of streaming, but the financial situation in doing that will keep the conference together if they can get the deal done in 2 to 3 weeks. But Ray Anderson, man, he's given that deadline out there, 2 to 3 weeks. If we don't get it done in 2 to 3 weeks, look out. Look out. Well, we're going to close it up for tonight. We've been on the air for 2 hours, 6 minutes. I appreciate you all coming in. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe before you leave. Get notified because we can pop up at any time. Anytime we go where the story is here at Peek Around the Corner. We're probably going to go on tomorrow night, no later than tomorrow night, because we've got some information. A little bit of nugget was told to us that what happened in the Big Ten meetings. There's some other stuff we're going to want to talk about. We're going to continue to talk about the Pac-12 story. We're going to hit we talked about the potential rivals for the Big Ten tonight. Maybe we'll hit those possible SEC permanent rivals for tomorrow night. We'll hit upon that. And then eventually we're going to get into the spring football games. We love spring football games because we love everything in college football. We're going to be doing watch parties. Yes, we are that crazy here at Peek Around the Corner. We're doing watch parties for spring football games. I know the Gophers play April 22nd at 12 o'clock noon Eastern time, live on the Big Ten Network, but we're going to be doing a whole bunch of other teams live watch parties, spring football games. We're going to watch the quarterback battles, the newcomers, Arch Manning versus Quinn Ewers, the whole thing, the whole shoot match. That's what we do here at Peek Around the Corner. So before you leave, subscribe to our channel, smash that like button, share the video with your family and your friends. I appreciate you all coming in. Ray Anderson, Arizona State, he finally spoke and we've been waiting for it. He's been frustrated. We told you all that on January 31st, but they're not in the driver's seat. Okay, until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.